I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing News Network, and here today with me is Dr. Kal Kotecha of the Junior Gold Report. Thank you so much for joining me here in person at PDAC. Nice to see you after a couple of years of break. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. It's been a long 2 years, but it just seemed like it went by really quick.
It does.
Yeah, it just seemed like we never left the event.
Almost, yeah. And have you had a chance to be down on the floor? I wonder what your take on the sentiment is like down there.
It's buzzing. It's not like it was, say, 15 years ago, as mentioned in my last interviews, but hopefully PDAC will come back to what it once was. But it's a premier conference, and I'm just glad to be here. And there's a lot of individuals here, a lot of good sentiment, and some bad sentiment, especially last week or two.
Yeah, so let's talk about what's going on in the gold market. I know that one question that we get a lot of the time is, why is the price not higher given all of the factors that are going on that you would think would be beneficial? So I wondered your take on that. Obviously, it's difficult to forecast the future, but what are you seeing in gold?
That's a good question. I believe that gold is performing well. Comparatively the last 20 years, the NASDAQ and the S&P, the Dow, gold has really outperformed those indices. So gold is doing well. A lot of people want to see gold at $5,000 and $10,000, kind of like what Bitcoin rose, and quite a bit, but gold is a different beast in itself. So in my opinion, gold is doing well. I think maybe a little better question would be is, why aren't some of the gold juniors doing, as well, right? So, and that's also dependent on the market and different types of fundamentals, including management, properties, and so on and so forth. But I believe there is money going into gold bullion itself through ETFs and other types of investments.
Yeah, well, and let's talk a little bit about the juniors, because as we know, on the floor down below us, there's so many companies there. What are some of the key challenges that you see them facing right now? Because I think there's quite a few.
So a lot of the challenges, one of the major challenges, of course, is raising money. And a lot of these juniors did not have an issue raising money the last couple of years or so. And now they might feel some headwinds because of the overall market is gone a little bit south. So that could be one of the major factors that attributes to this. So you want to pick companies that have a strong balance sheet, good management team, and the regular fundamentals that go with a good company.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Let's hone in on the economy right now. I know inflation is another topic that's getting a lot of airtime here, not just at PDAC, but also in the world. What is your outlook for inflation?
Well, just backtracking a little bit, I believe the government had a really bad monetary policy, fiscal policy, and oil policy, which led right into a bad, which is brew. So, and now they're trying to curb inflation when they pump so much money into the economy. So now they're trying to backtrack, and this could have been done with other better monetary and fiscal policy measures years ago, or a couple of years ago, starting, instead of just trying to backtrack now.
Yeah, very good point. And, what do you think? A lot of people are talking about a recession, wondering what's going to be happening next. What is your view?
So a lot of people are using the buzzword recession, but a recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP growth. Okay, so I think a better way of looking at this is, how deep are we in a recession? Maybe not using the fundamental definition of a recession itself, right? But looking and go, ask your restaurant owner, is he or she suffering, right? Of course, that person feels like they're in actually a depression, not just a recession. So I feel the government has pumped in so much money, and that's a big part of GDP. And at this point, that's going to be negated by a lot. And the consumer spending, in my opinion, will be negated by a lot. So GDP is, in my opinion, bound to go down. Now, if you look at the ways that the government measures that, they look at nominal GDP, okay? They look at real GDP. And with inflation, do they look at core inflation? Do they look at gas prices? Do they look at things that fluctuate quite a bit? So it depends how you also define, GDP. How do you define inflation? What factors do you use? So the public has to be aware of what metrics are being used.
Right, exactly. And one of the things that I often hear is these metrics that are coming out that they show to us may not fully represent the big picture. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, I think the metrics have changed since they used in the late 1970s when inflation was in like 20%. Interest rates were around that area as well. So the metrics have changed. But we can just see ourselves right now with gas prices going up a lot, and house prices, and now that's decreasing, so coming back in line. So there is real inflation out there. So how do you really curb inflation? Well, in my opinion, you have to do something with oil and gas because it's dependent on a lot of different things in transportation of food, okay, in making plastics, in making materials.
Okay, and with all of these things going on, you mentioned just look at people, they're feeling inflation in their day-to-day lives. I think there's an increased focus on where can people go to safety. Obviously, gold is one place you would think of. Are there any other areas that you look at for safety right now?
To put money in? Mm-hmm. Okay, so personally, I kept a lot in cash, and I think these are the times that a lot of millionaires and plus are made during these economic times. So when there was a downturn, we saw, 2 years ago before at the time you interviewed me, the market was doing pretty good, and about 3 or 4 weeks later, it crashed, right? So those are the times that, in my opinion, people can make a lot of money by putting money into assets as in their favorite, maybe junior mining stocks or other stocks.
Yeah, exactly. So you just go into cash perhaps and then wait for that downturn.
That's generally what I'm doing now, and then maybe deploy it a little bit slowly and see my good opportunities and deploy it that way.
Okay, very good. That's everything from me, unless you had any final points that you would want to make for the audience.
This is great. No, I'm just glad you're here, and you're covering this great show of PDAC, and looking forward to seeing you again next year and seeing what transpires in this year.
Yeah, and next year we'll be back in March, so it won't even be an entire year. That's
great.
What I hear. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Great to see you. And once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with the Investing is Network, and this is Dr. Kal Kotecha with Junior Gold Report.